So Wayne, down around 1/4%.
Yeah, not
on
much,
the JSE
yeah.
All Share. No real movement. 9.4 billion rand.
Yeah, but the volumes still aren't up to normal. I think they'll be there next year. I must admit, when I last looked at the market, which is about 4:15, this not downgrade, the outlook downgrade hadn't hit the markets yet, and the rand was sitting quite comfortable. And I thought, oh, another easy day. I see it's trading at 8.20. So, but I also think it's a fairly illiquid market. Look, at the end of the day, this change in the outlook actually doesn't mean all that much.
Oh, just a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. I mentioned the credit default swap, the 5-year credit default swap.
I don't think you must get too worked up about this whole story. The big down shares today, we've had the platinum shares coming under a bit of pressure. Certainly, maybe if the market stayed open a bit longer, they would have recouped some of that because of the weaker rand. The retailers, ShopRite, Massmart, a little bit down, but they've had such a cracker. So, I mean, what's the difference there? It's nothing on that. And then the gainers, there weren't much. As Abelstein off, not a lot. I think next week we'll start to see proper volumes coming through the market, and maybe then we'll get some more direction as to which sectors are going up and which sectors are going down. It's quite good to see banks ending slightly positive.
Well, just touching on Massmart, as I mentioned, down just over 2%. We also had some numbers coming through from them, and sales looking quite impressive.
Oh, yes.
And Massmart is actually sitting at 178 rand. So
they're sitting at almost a 30 PE. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Looking expensive. I mean, would you be waiting for a stock like this to become cheaper and wallet? Because we've been saying this for quite some time on the retail front.
It's so difficult to get this right. These are not cheap shares. They need seriously good earnings outlook to keep these prices up. Now, what worries me, you said this a few times this afternoon already, the economy is growing at 3%. Wages growth is 3%. Inflation's 4, 5, 6%. How can you show 8%, 9%, 10% real growth in turnover or store-on-store, like-on-like turnover or profits?
Because you have to look at the nominal GDP number to actually beat that.
I get you on that. But I think that there's not a bubble, but we must just start to be aware of it. It's these unsecured loans. People are borrowing and spending money because there's no. So
you'd be staying away from Able and Capitec, perhaps?
Yeah, we are. There's no real reason other than these unsecured loans as to why the consumers got so much money.
But surely the National Credit Act, the regulation that we have in place, is filtering out the bad lenders. That's why there's no need to
panic. No, but there's 30% growth in these unsecured loans over the last year. That's big. And that's where this money is coming from. Because people have got cash and they're spending cash at the stores, but there's no extra jobs, there's no massive wage increases. It's as I said.
So when do you think this bubble
could
burst? I mean, I know you were alluding to it, but I mean, what is the fate of this in 2012?
People now have taken up over the last, since the credit crunch, they've repaid a bit of debt. They got the mortgage bonds down. They got the car finance down. Now they're taking out in essence, overdrafts and unsecured loans to get their expenditure up. That can't continue at the same pace. It has to slow. It'll probably slow towards the end of this year. Now, slowing growth is no problem if you've got an 8 PE. But when you've got a 28 PE and your growth slows, it's a problem.
And the market is only 13, so yes, a bit of a concern there. The likes of MTN, it has come under pressure this week because it is operating Nigeria and Iran, and both countries experiencing problems.
Okay, Nigeria is far more important for MTN than Iran, but what's happening in Nigeria is relatively short term. I cannot see this uncertainty regarding the fuel subsidies, not the uncertainty, the unrest regarding the fuel subsidies continuing. What will probably happen is the government will say, right, sorry, we'll phase it in over 3 or 4 years. But understand what the government's doing is actually good for the economy longer term. They're getting their house in order. It's actually quite good for the Nigerian economy longer term. So this uncertainty around Nigeria will probably dissipate over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So
you'd buy into the dips with regards to MTN?
Yeah. Iran's a completely different story. It's relatively small, but if the sanctions really hot up and if there's civil unrest in the elections this year, that could turn nasty. If the US imposes full sanctions, US investors will be forced to sell MTN. I mean, MTN can answer that they would just unbundle their subsidiary there or sell their subsidiary to someone else, and then the main company won't come under pressure. But I think that's of longer duration, but it is much smaller than
Very
Nigeria.
quickly, just Exxaro, it's also one of the big stories,
Yes.
buying or wanting to acquire African Iron. Very
Yes.
quickly, Wayne, your thoughts?
They want to expand. They've got a bit of cash. We were maybe hoping they'll pay it back to shareholders, but they obviously decided they're going to go for the iron ore asset. It's in the Congo. It's not in the yacht. It's
Congo,
in the Congo,
yes.
and it's a year from production. So it looks quite good, and certainly they're talking 5 million tons now. I mean, we should be doing that in South Africa. We just can't get it to the port, and we can't get it on a ship. But that's quite big volume. I mean, South Africa must export, I don't know, 60, 70 million
That's
tons a
interesting
year.
because Congo is landlocked, so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how they get it to
Yeah.
ports, right?
No, I think they have got a very small access to the sea.